An equation is a way of encapsulating what the world around us is. It's an elegant simplification of a portion of the universe. A 300-year-old equation written by an Englishman states that the force between two bodies depends on the mass of the two objects and the distance between them. The further apart they are, the weaker the force. The bigger the objects, the bigger the force. The influence the digital ecosystem we live in has on us, its force, makes it easy to compare to the magic of that gravitational equation. If mass is the richness of the body, and by richness we define how articulated it is, how developed, how valuable, the comparison is not even that big of a leap. It's almost misleading gratuity, how we take it for granted. The fact that it's about two or more parties or bodies, the reciprocity, the reverse distance effect. What the ecosystem does for you is free of charge, whether you willingly accept it or not. You don't have to pay a yearly fee or a subscription to access it. The ecosystem doesn't care whether you are a man, a woman, whether you carry disabilities, whether you come from somewhere else, whether you are married or single. In all the above cases, the ecosystem will exercise its influence on you, and so will you. You will have an influence on the ecosystem. Whether that influence is closer to zero or as big as it gets, it is entirely up to you, as the strength of your influence will depend on the richness of your persona. As we were to challenge gravity itself, moving from the status quo to build a stronger and long-lasting digital ecosystem in this day and age requires a paradigm shift and follows few rules. First, you have to believe in it, and to believe you have to understand it. And that's what data is for. Because it is a paradigm shift that we are facing, we won't be able to achieve the extraordinary by acting ordinarily. It is extraordinary because the level of uncertainty connected to it, the number of failures that we may see ahead, the extreme competitive environment we work in, the shaky global outlook we have to operate within. But there is more. Building a better ecosystem is not only a formula or a business and technological exercise. It's a path that is walked through compassion and empathy, which are both paramount to any form of progress. Once you have compassion and empathy, you can often see that you have a lot more in common with people than you do apart. And it's the system and the mentality that we leave behind us that forcefully tries to prove us on our differences. What is radical is listening. What is always innovative is truly understanding. If there is one thing that will slow us down, it is not understanding each other. Arguing with each other isn't actually innovative at all. It's very conformist. So, there are risks. First, that we forget about the nuances. When things are moving fast and there is a paradigm shift, things can get quite reactionary instead of responsive. And so, when you react, you go off of emotion and you go off of anger, resentment. And that doesn't necessarily leave much space for nuance, which is important in order to understand the interconnectedness of the issues. There will be friction, but it should be hard for us to condemn someone as problematic or failing because we don't agree necessarily with them in the first place. A person only knows what she knows and has the insight that she has because she has made mistakes, and she interrogated those mistakes, and she is looking for turning those mistakes into knowledge, and knowledge into an asset. The second risk is misusing the technological opportunity. Take online spaces, for example. Online spaces and conversations can be the digital version of the school canteen. people choosing who they are going to sit with and who cannot sit with them. But if we embrace progress, the focus shouldn't be on labels and closed communities. It should be a lot more inward. Once you understand yourself, it is easier to understand everyone else because, as actors of the same ecosystem, we're actually not that different, and we want to achieve the same thing: a better life for everyone. This is the time, our time, the right momentum to build a long-lasting legacy that will stay with our children and our children's children. Along this path, the thousands of young and not so young entrepreneurs, the sons and daughters of Meucci, Leonardo, Marconi, Colombo, who fight every day to turn their ideas into business, and their business into legacy, who faces overwhelming odds, rejections, delusions, who cry over joy and smile over dissatisfaction, skip a meal or a university test just to be able to say, I made it.
So the sons and daughters of Marconi, Meucci, Leonardo, and Colombo, it's us, it's you. And we're here because we want to celebrate the impact you're having on the ecosystem with Wise Guys, through Wise Guys, but also through your entrepreneurial effort, your investor effort, your business effort. So my name is Andrea Orlando. I'm the managing partner of Startup Wise Guys in Italy. We're here to celebrate 1 year of Italy, 1 year of Wise Guys in Italy. We have the great pleasure of having the Wise Guys general partners here, and we have the great pleasure of having startups, community builders, influencers here. We are also launching the B2B Digital Startup report in Italy tonight. I'll give you a little bit of a teaser in a second, and you can subscribe through the barcode that I will show you in a second if you would like to receive the report, which is free directly in your email when it will be launched approximately by the end of the month. Let me go straight to the agenda. As I said, I will give you a quick teaser of the report that will not take very long, and then I will leave the mic to Federica Fasini, which she will talk us through the power of collaborative innovation. And then we will have a small surprise, an epistolary account of bad accelerators versus good accelerator. Then Niccolo Santini will tell us about the gaming industry in B2B and the impact branded video games. Federico, our host, will talk us through the new playbook for growth. And then we wrap up things with Ilaria that will tell us about the digital B2B trends in consumer goods industry. And then, again, thanks to our host, we will have the opportunity to celebrate a few moments together through a networking aperitif. So we're launching this report in Italy. It's an opportunity for us to follow a legacy that Wise Guys started in the Baltic. We want to grow the ecosystem through data. We do that also through a report. The report has been an effort, a joint effort with community partners, with the content writers, with the Wise Guys team. And the idea is to map the B2B digital ecosystem to create visually role model for wannabe entrepreneurs, to show how important is the B2B asset class to investors, but also to show to corporate that there is something valuable happening in innovation space through B2B digital startups. So through our network, we reached out to 60 plus contributors, 40 plus startups were nominated. Of this, we qualified 222 B2B digital startups in Italy. We think we are pretty close to cover the whole universe of Italian B2B digital ecosystem. We also launched a survey to have a little bit more granularity about the qualitative part of it. And we wouldn't have done this without our content partner, which has been VC Hub, the almighty association in the VC scene in Italy. I will give you very, very few teaser. These are the main verticals that are operating in Italy in the B2B digital ecosystems. I'm not very surprised to see MadTech, which is marketing and advertising technology, given the manufacturing and industrial background that Italy has, I was positively surprised to see so many cybersecurity startups. It's a great news. It's a very hot topic for Italy. Not so surprised about having almost 10% extended fintech, extended because it includes also insurtech and not only fintech. Again, we're talking about the B2B perimeter here. Shouldn't be surprising that Lombardy is leading from a geographical standpoint, but I was quite happy to see how spread it is in other regions, and also we see some good cases in the south that are emerging, Puglia and Campania. That's good news. It means for me that there are a lot of opportunities to be grasped. I'm thinking about all the central and south Italy and the entrepreneurs and the tech force that is being developed through the university down there that can help developing the ecosystem more. Yes, Milano is leading the scene. I was happy to see Bologna and Firenze together with Turin and Rome in terms of birthplace of the startups. This is interesting. We scrutinized all the startups and we saw which one have already a bilingual website and which one have only an Italian website. It turns out that almost 40% is only an Italian, is only an Italian version, which proves to me that there is an opportunity there. If a startup wants to grow internationally, maybe it's never too early to start branding themselves internationally, at least with 2 languages on their website. As I said, we conducted a survey. There's not a very diverse scene in Italy. Unfortunately, there weren't many only women-led teams. It's not too bad in terms of the mix part, but of course, if we want a diverse scene, there's much more to be done. We need to encourage those entrepreneurs. We need to encourage those businesswomen who really wants to go into the digital startup world. So this part of the survey tells me that funding seems not to be the problem anymore in Italy. It was a problem a few years ago. Very few startups are still looking for the first round. Some of the vast majority of the startups has reached pre-seed and seed levels, which means that the challenges are not now in gathering resources. Challenge are scaling up fast, finding the right team, following the customer's journey in the proper way, scaling up internationally. So this will be the content of the report. We will go through, let's say, mapping the numbers of the ecosystem, of the B2B digital ecosystem. Then we'll show the results of the survey, and then we'll give you some highlights for the 3 main verticals that we found. Also trying to create some role model by giving some room to some entrepreneurs who can really pave the way for wannabe entrepreneurs. So that's it. If you want to download for free the report, scan the code while I finish talking. We will leave this on also during the aperitif, of course. Through the forum, you can leave your email, and there will be an opportunity to receive a notice when we launch the ecosystem, as I said, before the end of the month. So that's it from me. Now the fun part comes. Now we have master of content, experienced entrepreneurs, influencers that will tell us about their story in the B2B, into the B2B digital ecosystem. It's a team evening, let's say. B2B, it's our core. B2B is what we know. So without further ado, let me call on the stage Federica Pasini, Forbes, Under 30, Junior Jedi co-founder, Hacking COVID co-founder. Please welcome her with a big applause.
Thank you very much. It's my first speech in person after 1.5 years, so I'm very emotional. So, and I know you're going to turn my slides, so I'm here today. I'm using finally this picture that I've been taking for speaking about innovation. I'm here today as I'm covering at the moment a role as head of community in a company that does technology development in crowd, and I've been involved in many community experience. So I've been networking around in my free time during the last 10 years in many communities with different roles. So from co-founding some and leading some communities like Junior JD, which is the Italian intranet of the rainforest, is how we like to say, to a normal member. So I've learned a lot about what means living a community and what works. So I want to share with you some insight from the first one, which is, go ahead, how to create a collaborative ecosystem. So what I've learned is that first one, people want to belong something. So building a strategy, a brand strategy is key while building a community. This means, of course, communicating a clear vision and purpose. Second thing I've learned is that creating a free environment is key. So we must, we want to have our say in a community that we belong to. I think this is happening in your daily life. So we want to be free, and we want to be therefore in a protected environment. And the third thing that I've learned is that people give only after they take. So what and how you give them in a community is key in order to have a give back. So unconsciously, I put together these three things to build Hacking COVID last year. So Hacking COVID is a network of more of 200 people that just started discussing about COVID-related topics. So at the beginning was a WhatsApp chat. We wanted to just probably share our what we were afraid of, as all of us 1.5 years ago. And therefore we start saying, okay, but we have skills, we have time, we have energy, we want to build something. And we divided into groups from psychological wellness to the economic impact. We want to create something, let me say, concrete. And the one of the project that I'm more proud about is Hacking Talents. Just to give you the example of what collaborative innovation means concretely, this is hackingtalents.it if you want to look at it. It's a service where everyone who is facing a professional challenge can find 1 hour of support from an experienced person, so from a mentor, in exchange of a donation to a charity, so a free donation. And so we built this product, it's there. And we had more than 100 requests. So why we need collaborative innovation? So basically, after these 10 years and this last 1.5 years of Hacking COVID, I wanted to arrive here and express to you why it is so important to innovate in a collaborative way for you as investor, for you as professional, for you as a part of community. This is why individually, because being exposure to different inputs help us in evolve our mindset and our way of living on a daily life. So it's really related. I didn't know about the video before, but it's exactly what the video was saying. We need to challenge our brains in order to be up to date in this interconnected world. And the second thing is that energy and concrete projects support our public and let me say private in terms of business systems. So this is why I think we really need this kind of innovation and collaboration. Thank you very much.
So, please help me welcoming on stage Nicolò Santin, CEO and founder of Gamindo. Nicolò will tell us about the gaming B2B trends. Nicolò, the stage is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nicolò Santin, CEO and co-founder of Gamindo. Okay, so two words about gaming. As you know, we are 2.7 billion people playing video games in the world. I think that half of the people that are here today play with Candy Crush, with Call of Duty, or something else. In 2023, we will be, I'm a great gamer, we will be 3 billion people playing video games. And the great thing is that the average age of the gamer is 34 years old. My mom plays with video games. And we have seen a great opportunity for brands. And so what do? We develop brand mobile games for brands, but with a social impact. The more you play, the more the brand donate for you to charities. So choose a play, start playing game, and then you collect some gems with the money that the brands put for you. You receive these gems and you donate to charities without spending. And in 1 year, we have worked with all these brands. We have started with very small company in Veneto, where I live. And now we are working with Coca-Cola, with Lavazza and Barilla. And in a few weeks, we will launch the game for the biggest company in the world. And some of our games are, for example, this one with Mulino Bianco, with Lavazza, or with some influencers, such as Chiara Ferragni or Marco Montemagno. I'm here, okay, the history, we have raised $500,000, accelerated by Plug and Play, and I'm here today to talk about the vision. I'm sorry, but this slide. And our vision is that we think that in 3-5 years, all the companies in the world will have a game, and so we are building a GaaS or a SaaS, game as a service, and so we will be an agency for big brands. That will be our cash cow. And we will give to all the companies in the world the possibility to create a game in 3-5 minutes. The long tail. Okay, perfect. The slide that we're waiting. Lessons learned from the B2B. I have not a background in industry, in companies, so this is my first startup. I studied economics in the university, and then I've started with Gamindo. But I'm learning something about the B2B world. The first thing is that marketing managers, in my case, receive a lot of emails, a lot of cold emails. My product is the best, please, let's have a call now that you can't have a meeting. So I would like to sell you my product. And the first thing that you need to ask yourself is, why are you better than them, all your competitors, all the other people that want the time of the marketing manager? The second thing is, I'm not a great fan of the cold email. It's very simple. You can send a cold email also with HubSpot or different products. I'm not a great fan because they are very, very cold. I really prefer another solution that's, for example, LinkedIn. I use it a lot. And the majority of the brands that you have seen in the slide before, we have reached them with LinkedIn. I've texted them or they have texted me. So I think that's great, but be careful with the messages or the other tools that you have in LinkedIn. Another thing is make something brand manager needs. When you apply to Y Combinator, there is make something people want or need. I don't remember, but it's very important to, and the slide next is talk with them, listen to them. And for example, with some brands, we have understood, for example, with Chiara Ferragni, as you will see later, we have understood that they need the lead generation. And by talking with them, we have created a game that collects over 50K leads with the permission from people. So it was talking with them, it was listening them, their needs that we have understood, and that we have the game paid by the brand. The next slide is also very important to find the person inside the company that takes that decision. That's very, very important because you can talk with one of the marketing manager, but it's not the correct brand. So talk with the right person. And the next one is that I think that's very important, the importance of the buffet. So after these speeches, there will be the buffet. I think that's very important here, but in all the events, to talk with people and to start presenting your idea, your product, because a speech with a person in reality is much better than a cold email, a LinkedIn message, because they see your face and you can start your selling process. And in this case also, I think my philosophy is that if you try, you have 1% of success probability. If you don't try, 0%. You don't need to have a degree to understand that in math, 1 is measured than 0. So I strongly believe that you have to try. You have someone in front of you. Try to sell your product. Understand the feedbacks that he can give you. Another important thing is that I think that in the B2B, it's like the raining, because at the beginning, to see the first raindrop, you need to wait days. Then when you have the first one, then there is the second one, the third one, and then you go on with a lot of brands. For example, it was making the game of Chiara Ferragni that we had the opportunity to work with L'Oreal, or doing the game with Coca-Cola that we had the opportunity to work with Ferrero. So I think that's very important. And then some examples. I would like to give you some case studies, 3 case studies about our branded games, about our roller coaster. The first one is the case with Chiara Ferragni. So the first attempt was GDPR. So was to write in LinkedIn, 0 success, no answers. The second one was to write a cold email, 0 success, no answer. The third one was to create something a little bit creative to have their attention. So I've done a LinkedIn post saying what was my idea. So if Chiara put a game in the swipe up where you play and you collect the data of the player, I think that's a great idea. And after that, in few months, we had Chiara Ferragni that in our swipe up Instagram told play with my games. It was played in over 100 countries in the world, and also an article. Another example to have other companies talk about our product was to participate to one of the biggest program in Italy, in Rai Uno, saying that we develop impact video games. It's a program where you say what's your work. And after that participation, we had, no, the slide before. We had, okay, no problem. We had a lot of views in our website and a lot of emails from company. They said, I've seen you yesterday in Rai Uno. What do you do? Please tell me something about your product. The last one is the game that we have done with Morning Brew. It's a great newsletter, over 3 million people that read it. I've messaged to one of the managing editor saying that we have done the game for them. It was not true. We have messaged to a lot of influencers. And when he told me, okay, I would like to see your product, we have developed it in 10 minutes. It was a very simple game, but the day after they have launched the game in the newsletter. This was not Trump versus Biden, but all the America that have played with our game that we have developed after that the client asked us the game. And so these are only the success. That's like an iceberg, 10% over, 90% down. But my favorite quote is that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. And that's my story about B2B. Thank you very much.
At the same time, our host, Federico.
Can you hear me? Yes, I believe. I can hear myself, so yes. Okay, let's say I don't have any slides. Finally, after 12 months, we can see each other, interact, raise the hands, have questions. I spend 12 hours a day talking to a computer, so finally, let me improvise, have some talk with you. When Andrea told me to say, trying to say something intelligent, that's the first challenge here, asked me to give some advice of our story. I co-founded the company 3 years ago with my two, let's say brothers, but are my two friends, best friends. Down the line, everything is changed. You know, most of the time, founding a company means challenging the status quo for yourself, for the other, for the market category, for the market behavior. And most of the time, you have to rewrite the rules. And that's, you know, when you're a parent, most of the time you forgot what does it mean to be a child. When you grow a company, you forgot what does it mean to be an early stage company. So in these days, that question comes in my mind most of the time. What I have to know at the beginning, what advice, key learn, key success strategy I could use at the beginning. I bring to the object that I changed the last 12 months in my personal life and professional life, and a glass of water, it's on the table, but physically it's in my hand, a glass of water and a book. If you're asking why a glass of water is important and link on a startup, follow me, but there is no link at all, just an excuse to tell something to you. But the idea is that water nowadays reminds me every day a personal power that I found the company I've created with my founders. Let's say that with the sense the company nowadays, we are working in 80 different countries, so we have scaled from Italy all over the world. We are more than 100 persons remotely, 100%. Even before COVID, this space is an office, but it's not an office, it's a home. Gather people, stay together. That's the best pleasure to have you here today. The idea is the two things that changed the last 12 months, and interrupt me if I'm taking more time because the second danger, the first, saying intelligent things, the second, staying here all the night. The first thing, the glass of water. Water has different properties. One is transparency. It's curious because transparency, it's unbelievable. You can predict the fat starting and studying the two different elements, hydrogen and oxygen. It's simply impossible. Only when brought together with this property makes the light of transparency. So it's strictly impossible, and it arises from the collaborative function of that system. So it's quite clear, the connection. When you are bringing people in your company, you are selecting talent, you are hiring talent, but at a certain point, when you are scaling, that second point, when you're scaling, growing, magically people are joining your company, they're interacting with each other, and are creating the magical power. 1 + 1 = 3, the whole is greater than the sum of its part, and whatsoever, the classical Netflix thing. But it's true, when you overcome 20 people, the first advice that I would have at the beginning was, by 10 people that join the company, have one at least that's taking care of people at the beginning, understanding the personal growth, the professional growth, understanding not in a hierarchical way, but knowing each other, how can I support the growth of people. The second things, of course, transparency gives us this sense every day that while the company is scaling, teams are giving their best, giving their effort to a common purpose with accountability and transparency that are cornerstone of our company. The second thing is a book that is a quite famous book. I believe most of you have already read this book, this No Rules Rules. This is a mantra, let's say, nowadays, not original at all. But what this book, and I read this book during the pandemic, alone in my house, 1,000 calls, remind me this word, that is freedom. I introduced in the policy in our company because Italy had these and so many plus, but also some challenges in bureaucracy. We have policy and so on. We cannot be no rules rules. But in the policy, we add this word, freedom. Freedom gives the sense of framework that for the first time, that means challenge the status quo also here, give the possibility to the person that is working in our company to work wherever they want. Doesn't matter where you are. Your talent is not locked on Milan, Paris, New York. Your talent is with you and your expertise. So starting by that, we have challenged all the rules behind the status quo and how people can interact with each other. We understood that the remote working is not a new normality. It's the normality nowadays. It's impossible to come back behind that. And I'm strongly convinced about it. But remote working doesn't mean working from home. That's completely different. You have to build, to invest energy, money, resource, to build a system that can allow people to interact with each other even better. So in the last 12 months, with a glass of water and book and other things, of course, we have created a structure that can help people to join the company from the onboarding process to the communication. Very rarely someone says how to communicate better. We know that communication is a great problem in every company out there, but no one says some secret, and I will do that this today even. But the idea is that to communicate well, it's setting the right process. We have structure, strong meeting cadence, Q&A, all ends, where people can join every day saying whatever they want, ask for clarity, for objection, for goal. They have access to all the metrics of the company. What I know, the people know the same things here. And second and third, so the transparency, how to work together, the tools. Nowadays, we take for granted that every time we have to challenge the status quo and reinvent the wheel every time, but it's not true. There are thousands of companies when you can partner together. So we implemented tools to help do that. For example, Slack, quite common as a tool. Slack is not a chat messaging. It's a virtual HQ when you can gather people, have a cross-functional team, communication at every level, open a group and close a group in 2 seconds. So that allows you to have cross-functional team. That's another challenge with status quo. Not hierarchical process, but cross-functional. So nowadays we are talking about OKRs, agile, processes that seems for a big company very complex, but does not to be very complex at all. You can start, implement the process, and nurture this process time after time. So we started with the OKRs, with agile. After 12 months, all the processes implemented are more than fruitful. That's taken for granted, because people are joining the company, of course, leaving, join. That's the engine that we want to build, and they already know why we are here. That's the common things. Federica at the beginning said, I don't know if she's already here, she's still here, but she said purpose, she said commitment, great words that not just build a community, because a community is not just something outside, it's something inside also. So every person that joined the company nowadays constantly are changing themselves, have the tools, the rules, let's say even if there are no rules, to challenge the status quo. So people have, let's say, the freedom to do whatever they want because we trust them. That's the key message we want to pass nowadays, because of course there are secret, we are in the middle of transition, we are changing the go-to-market tactics, the KPIs, whatever. But after COVID and after a strong pivoting that we have in our company, we started as a marketplace, now we are B2B SaaS. That's the bad side to be a first founder. You change everything constantly. But the people that join the company, if aligned, well-selected, committed, nurtured, are intangible. It's priceless. Most of the time we are looking for, that's the bias that we have in Italy, looking for strong talents that are not here. And we have done the same. We have hired people from Spain, from France, from US, from APAC, Australia. It's super, because now we have a global company that made diversity, inclusivity, everything that we had to be in a company nowadays. But at the end, what you discover that what is priceless is the commitment of the people that are joining the company with this power. So let's say the glass of water, just to recap, the book that we have in front of me, and what I'm trying to say to you, that most of the time when you start a company, you take for granted that you have to grow, because basically startup is made for it. We know we are obsessed with growth, with scaling, go abroad, be international, but at the end, the growth, for the growth's sake, we know that doesn't work today. How we growing is essential. So no one knows. That's probably, I can give you the playbook because one side doesn't fit all, basically. But nowadays, when you start a company, no one gives you the sense how to grow. Give you the pillars that you have. Because the third point, when you have hired a person that can take of the people that are joining you, when you have a clear value that you are discovering, as soon as possible, design your company culture. It's something that no one told me in the beginning. Take for granted. Okay, growth, bring revenue to the company. Scale from 0 to 10 million as fast as you can. Go for it. I give you 500K, 1 million, 6 million, and so on. We have done that. Okay, we are growing. But at some certain point, I'm understanding that to growing further, you have to understand how you want to grow. And there, if you have a solid DNA, a solid playbook of the culture. I can print for you, but if you email me, I give you what we are trying to achieve on that part. It's basically completely different because you can scale the processes, the person. As a CEO, I can be everywhere. It's impossible. You have to make yourself redundant, useless. I'm the last person that will be useful in that company. I don't know anything. I don't want to know anything because my value is not doing everything in every second, but it's made of 3, 4, 5 action per day that takes 10 hours, but that 4 or 5 action that are fundamental. So at the end, you discover that how you're growing is essential. And there you are defining your company culture, your DNA, your principle that COVID, no COVID. COVID for a startup is honestly, allow me to say that it's one of the pain that you have. A competitor, a market is changing, employees that is leaving before the end. So challenging every day. So it's not a problem, the change. The change is our strongest ally, as also we said previously. But the idea is if you are control of how you're growing, put the first from the people that you have as not some nice sounding values. It's completely different game here. So that's the encouragement I want to pass today. But my idea was to have a chat with you, not just a frontal lesson. So if you have question, curiosity, it's more than a help, and more than welcome to reply to that.
Okay, we are unfortunately approaching the end of this eventful afternoon. Let me call on stage Ilaria, our beloved speaker, Forbes Under 40, BCG alumna. Ilaria will tell us a little bit about the B2B trends in the consumer goods industry. The floor is yours. I help you.
Okay, you. Good afternoon, everybody. I wrote just a very brief, but I wonder is not very brief, presentation of myself, just to give you a background, because I'm not a founder, but I've been entrepreneur by being a CEO of Brandon Group over the last 3 years. And my path has been in both very large companies and in small startups that have been growing significantly during my period in there. I'm here today because I've had a very privileged point of view in analyzing B2B trends. Actually, Brandon Group, which I joined in 2018, is a major B2B player, is an online sales enabler for companies that wants to be very effective in a very timely manner by selling through marketplaces with both B2B and B2C business models. And the B2B is actually the very beginning of Brandon Group business model, and it has been the fastest part of its, I don't know what this arrows have been doing, but effectively the B2B part has been the fastest growing part for Brandon Group, that has been growing from 4.8 million to more than 33 in 2020 million turnover. What I've been looking at while CEO at Brandon Group is first, the fact that marketplaces is a necessary part of each company's strategy. I would say both in B2B and in B2C, and actually with the COVID, there has been a massive boost in the need of marketplaces across the online sales strategy of each company. Vertical e-retailers, actually for the consumer goods, it is particularly important. There are some vertical marketplaces that tends to be necessary, not only in terms of sales that you can actually reach through the marketplace, but the positioning of your products require your products and the brand to be within the offer of certain marketplaces. And in terms of flash sales and discount, what I've been seeing is a very strong and renewed interest towards flash sales and discount platforms that, following the pandemic, have been a strong support for all brands and massively for those categories that have suffered the most during the pandemic, that need somehow to clean up their warehouses that have been massively impacted by the COVID. In terms of e-procurement, that was also an opportunity that has been captured within Brandon Group, because in 2020, in a matter of 2 months, we identified a gap in the market. There were major Italian groups that were in strong need for a support in terms of procurement for COVID-related products. And although Brandon Group was very much focused on developing digital strategies, we identified a strong value that we had in our base of digital provider, digital distributors that through Brandon Group could enter in contact and support and satisfy the need of products COVID-related, like masks, like the gel, but also for industrial goods. We've been supporting companies in dealing with non-digitalized procurement systems. And this comes to the next slide and the trends that we've been looking at and I have been exposed to, in particular, the fact that B2B marketplaces are the fastest growing segment within the B2B online growth that we've been massively seeing. So looking at these elements of trends that I will go very quickly through, but please feel free to interrupt me or to ask more information. With regard to the COVID impact, we've been all seeing a strong acceleration of online sales. But within the B2B, what has been extremely important for me is the fact that the buyers themselves, the B2B buyers, were individuals, and they have been exposed massively during the pandemic to a new personal consumer behavior. And this translated also into their expectation for an experience while dealing with their own job, which was procurement, that used to be very much manual, and they open up towards a more digital experience of their own job, which is effectively purchase, but in a B2B way for companies. And this aspect has dramatically driven the growth of B2B marketplaces. Just to make an idea, B2B e-commerce was worth 1.4 trillion in 2020 and is expected to reach 3.6 trillion in 2024. And marketplaces are expected to reach 30% of this 3.6 trillion. So their role is not only expected, but it's right now an extremely relevant area to look at. I would say the proliferation, the number of B2B marketplaces has dramatically risen over the last years. In 2010, there were about 20 of them. Right before the COVID pandemic, there used to be around 70 B2B marketplaces. Nowadays, we count more than 300 of them. And they are growing, driven by two main activators and launchers of these marketplaces. There are the tech giants, and obviously we will go through them in some example further then. And then there are the specialists. There are companies that have a very strong product specialization, and they are entering this new field of revenues, let me say, introducing in parallel to their own products, other suppliers' products, because these enable for them a key business case, that is all around data. Data that regards the possible customers, not only B2C customers, but also B2B. Here we go to the third, the generalist versus vertical. These B2B marketplaces, as I was saying, can be generalist or vertical. The generalist, in the end, can go to Amazon Business and Alibaba. Think that these two players by themselves count the vast majority of the B2B marketplaces. Just to make you an idea, in 2020, Amazon Business reached 25 billion net sales, and Alibaba got into more than 10 million B2B suppliers on its platform. And this is for the generalistic players that are progressively entering and enlarging the number of categories that they are selling. But there are, as I was saying, some industrial, and when I say industrial, it could be any industry. Industrial because they are specialized in industrial chemicals, consumer goods. There are players that play a role in a specific industry that are launching a B2B marketplace. There is Siemens, there is Airbus, there is Just Eat. After the merge with Takeaways, they've been launching a B2B marketplace that is providing both food and non-food products dedicated for restaurants. There is one that is specialized on school appliances. There is Tetra Pak that, leveraging its own experience, has opened a massive B2B marketplace regarding food and beverage. There are alternative business models. These B2B marketplaces actually can be, depending on the option, can be either focusing on new products, but there are also some that are focused on used products. There are some that are using a model of auction, and other that are following the standard path of a normal listing. There are some of these marketplaces that are not only providing the opportunity to purchase, but also to rental or to lease. This is in particular for industrial and equipment. And then we go to something that to me is particularly relevant, and in the consumer goods is really moving and shifting the e-commerce and holistic e-commerce strategies of major groups. And I'm referring to the GBP. If we can go to the next slide. Brands and marketplaces have been, let me say, obliged to work together somehow, but their interests have been significantly divergent over the last few years. What I mean is that a brand as a key goal to maximize its control over the key success levels of its products. I mean, the catalog. They would like to decide what catalog to upload in which platform, to which price. They would like to have the control over the price, over the discount. Not only that, they would like to have it variabilized as much as possible, the cost of selling those products through marketplaces. On the other side, marketplaces have been massively pushing towards a consignment model that has been, by the way, a strong lever of the growth for Amazon. Think that Amazon vendor in 1999 used to be the 97% of Amazon revenues. Nowadays, this part counts for 45%. All the rest has been moving towards the seller part, which is the B2C, that does include within the 45% what is called Amazon Business, because Amazon Business effectively is just replicating the B2C experience in a B2B environment. And this is particularly important to know because nowadays the B2B and B2C are somehow getting closer when brands and marketplaces are meeting halfway. So what is called joint business programs is something that is massively growing as an opportunity for brands, especially in the consumer goods, and is seeing a mix of the key advantages that brands and marketplaces are able to capture while going to a B2B model. So the joint business programs still can be seen as a B2B business model because effectively the marketplace is purchasing the products. They own the inventory risk, but there are some mitigations to this, and it depends on the point of view that you have, but each one has been given something to the other. What brands have been taking from this new model? CRM data. And this is crucial because in the past, when a brand was selling to a marketplace, was completely missing any information from that point on. And this is no more acceptable when a brand has an holistic e-commerce strategy and wants to know where its product is going, to whom. Second thing, the brand has to give something back to marketplaces, and what is given is a co-investment. So although the products has been purchased by the marketplace, the brand is delivering this discount that is a non-cash support to marketplaces to push their products. But the key thing is that for the first time, also in a B2B business model, brands and marketplaces are sitting together by designing a multi-year business plan that enables to have a team of people on both sides that is talking and enabling and reducing the risk of some issues. The out of stock, that was the key issue for marketplaces. The out of stock is something that is not only reducing sales or preventing from the maximization of sales, but the key issue is the fact that it is reducing the variety that the marketplace is providing. And we do not forget that for a marketplace, the number one priority is to provide variety, because it's the key reason for which a customer goes to the marketplace and return. And because of this, I would say the joint business programs that are more and more popular among Net-a-Porter, Zalando, ASOS, and so many marketplaces is really a new trend that will progressively support the B2B model to not be completely overcome by the B2C. As a last one, I would say that Amazon has been, over the past, as I was saying, and I've been dealing with them a lot over the last 3 years in Branding Group. Amazon, as I was saying, has got a vendor side that is purchasing products from companies, and then Amazon is the owner of those products and sell them to final customers. And then there is the Amazon business side that is within the third party, but is selling to B2B, so to companies through Partita IVA. And Amazon Luxury is a new way of working for Amazon that is going to arrive in a very powerful way in Europe as well, starting from November 2021. In the US, it's already active, but in Europe is expected to be extremely effective and is going to, let me say, move significantly the expectations of growth for, especially for fashion, apparel, and accessories market. Why? Because Amazon will be providing a concession model, which means effectively a move towards the B2C with higher margin, because do not forget that marketplaces were willing to keep the B2B business model because it wouldn't allow much higher revenues and much higher margins compared to the B2C model. Through this concession model, with a much higher percentage of concession fee, which is 25% compared to the average 15 to 18% that is currently asking for in the B2C model, Amazon is going not only to increase its presence in the fashion and luxury market, but also is going to create a whole ecosystem of value-added services that will be providing to its own B2B customers that are the key brands of the Made in Italy. That's it.
Thank you. So that's a wrap. I feel a little bit bittersweet. Bitter because an evening of content is finished. Sweet because I'm fulfilled with knowledge, and now the network and aperitif part is coming. So before letting you off, I just want to say thank you everyone for coming. Before you go, please remember to collect your gift. We have a small gift, which is the map of the ecosystem branded by Wise Guys, a small compliment for being with us tonight. May I invite my partners in crime, Doug, Herty, and Cristobal on stage to say a few words of farewell before sending our beloved guest off.
Thank you. 90-second speech. We were joking the other day that if I invite you for a coffee, you're in trouble because something will change in your life, right? So Andrea was invited for a coffee in 2019, early summer, and he was in trouble, right? But I just wanted to thank you, actually, on behalf of the management and the ownership. You have shown the true spirit of entrepreneurship. You took the difficult road. You didn't abandon when COVID hit and people would have actually left. You came to Italy, and I think I love the introduction, which is about impacting ecosystems. And I think we are having a big impact in Italy, and that's because of your leadership here. So thank you for this. Thank you for, let's keep doing more and more. But thank you for celebrating. I think we always talk about we have to celebrate. We have to, every small win is a big celebration, and this is a big win. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't want to say anything. I want to say thank you. You want to say?
The Estonians are,
yeah, we are Estonians. We don't talk much, but we are also super happy that we found Andrea, and he was doing really good due diligence, coming to our events in Spain, talking to us, asking a lot of questions to make sure that we are the right partners for him in Italy, and he wants to work with us, and we are super lucky that he shows us and he's doing a great job here. Thank you, Andrea, very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the